Welcome to the Mind of Reason. Yes, I know that's a bit cringe, but I also think I'm going to keep that in every intro. Now, before I get into the review, I really want to say that I'm blown away by the reception of the previous video. I'm genuinely glad you all enjoyed it, and I hope you'll continue to enjoy my content. I'll do my best to improve and to get videos out way more often, though it won't be at the cost of quality. It's just that not every game I play will make for, long videos. But enough about me. Let's get into today's game, which is an unknown gem that goes by the name of Vladik Brutal. So yeah, as you saw, this is an FPS game where you use an all-around satisfying arsenal of weapons to mow down hordes of mutants, and not Combine, in a fictional Eastern European country that has gone to hell due to an experiment that Vladik, the main character, was forced to participate in. It makes for a crazy ride though, and the gameplay itself is very simple, very casual, but still difficult where it counts. I'd say aside from one boss fight, which I will talk about later, the game doesn't have any unfair encounters, but it does like to keep you on your toes. Gameplay wise, all you do is just use your weapons at your disposal. No other mechanics, you just drop in and kill like there's no tomorrow. Now, to address the elephant in the room, it's obviously very inspired by the Half-Life series. And it's not just a combine or crowbar. The levels have platforming, the occasional break into this vent to continue, find a battery to activate a door, and find a hand to activate a scanner. Okay, those last two might not be from Half-Life, but they are some of the situations the game puts you in to give you a break from the intense combat. Anyways, despite the similarities, it stands on its own as it focuses pretty heavily on the combat encounters, with some decent enemy variety for the game's length, as it's not that long. If all of that sounds good to you, then Vladik Brutal is the game for you. But if you need some more convincing, or you just want to know more, then wait no longer. It's time to really get into it. For starters, let's get the shorter topics out of the way, like the graphics. It's generally nothing amazing, but there are a few times where the levels on the outside look nice. For the most part though, the visuals are just serviceable. The designs of the not combine are alright. The mutants look pretty horrific in a good way, and the guns, they look great actually. Overall though, nothing special, but it's not an eyesore, or at least the surface levels aren't. They usually take place in the city, which is in the midst of a rebellion, or on the outskirts, which is a very nice change of scenery whenever you make it out of the underground. As for the underground, I don't really care for most of those levels, as they are basically just facilities, caves, and sewers. Though, one thing you'll begin to realize very quickly is that the sound design in this game is top class. First, the music is mostly ambient and makes most of your time spent traversing the world feel kinda creepy, at least in the sections where you're underground and you're fighting mutants. But when the situation calls for it, the game does play a badass track to go along with certain combat scenarios. Aside from the fitting soundtrack, the sounds in the game are crisp but very loud, especially the guns. I mean, while playing, I actually jump scared myself when I accidentally shot my shotgun. Yeah, pretty damn loud. But that, combined with the recoil, which isn't bad, makes the guns extremely satisfying to shoot, especially because the game does not shy away from bloodshed. You can shoot off body parts, blow apart heads, and if you're close enough, you get blood all over your screen, which makes it feel like you truly are an unstoppable killing machine. Now, I've basically already described the core combat of the game, but to expand on what you'll experience, while traversing the game, you'll find boxes or lockers that have ammo/health in them, and though there are no universal ammo drops, there are supply machines that give you a little bit of everything whenever you use them. They can help you out in a pinch depending on the situation, though most of the time if you are low on health or ammo, killing enemies will likely drop some, so you need to be aggressive sometimes, even with low health. To be honest though, the game has quick saving, so that kind of makes the game pretty damn easy if you use it right, but because of how powerful your weapons are, you don't need to use the quick saves, especially because just like Half-Life, you can carry every weapon at the same time. But unlike Half-Life, you also have a weapon wheel that slows down time, like in the new Doom games. It helps a lot when you're in the midst of a chaotic situation. Now, regarding the enemies that you'll be tearing through with bullets and explosives, I'll give you a quick description on all of them. Now, I'm sure they do have names, but I'll just give them names I think fit them, or I'll say their actual name if I know it. For starters, there are two types of enemies you'll face, the mutants and the not combine. There is an interesting thing you may notice while playing, and that's that you only ever fight mutants underground. As it turns out, there is a reason for it that gets explained at the end of the game. It's not super insane or anything, so I'll just leave it for later because it's mysterious. Anyways, the first enemy you encounter is the zombies. They're simple, but they ain't the slow type. They are fast and hyper aggressive. If you let those guys get close to you, they'll rip you to pieces in a few hits. I'm not joking, it is scary how fast they can kill you. What makes them worse is that you only have a crowbar bar when you encounter them, but not for long. You get your pistol, I don't know, I would say like 5 or so minutes later. So it's not all that bad in the beginning. Next are jumpers. These are mutants that move around on all fours and just leap straight at you. Once again, simple but effective as most enemies are in this game. After those guys is the mother and her children. Pretty disturbing stuff. So the mother is a mutant woman that doesn't ever attack you directly. Instead, she gives birth to her mutant children that run at you and explode when you're close enough. If you get close, the mother will just run away and start spawning the children again. Thankfully, she's not hard to deal with. I never really had a problem with her. Not long after you meet her, though, you meet the invisible mutant. It's probably called like a stalker or something, but yeah, they're invisible, and in most situations you have a decent chance at seeing the distortion of their invisibility, so you can focus on taking them out quickly. But there are times where it's good to rely on sound in the game, as they do make noise, so that's pretty cool. They are a legitimate threat though, so absolutely have your guard up around them because they will surprise you. Surprisingly, the enemy after that is the Not Combine, which luckily moments before you encounter them, the game hands you an assault rifle. The Not Combine faction as a whole don't have too much variety. At most, they got melee dudes, which funnily enough, these guys usually come in packs, and that's because they are not armored, so you can tear through them like paper. Dudes with pistols, assault rifles, sniper type enemies. Once again, you only encounter them after getting a sniper yourself, which is, you know, much appreciated. Then you got shield guys, which, surprise, their shields aren't actually that bad since you can shoot through the shield's window easily with the shotgun. And lastly, you got some armored guys, which should probably have a decent assault rifle, but the heavily armored guys always have a minigun. A well-placed double shotgun blast takes the armored guys out in one go, but if they are the minigun guys, it takes about 4 shots, or 1 double shot from the sawed-off shotgun. Overall, the Not Combine factions are versatile enough to give you trouble, though it's mostly, you know, the fact that they got guns that makes them the most formidable enemies in the game. And since I talked about all that, I gotta mention the last type of mutant, the boomers, which are these tall and fat mutant things that explode into acid upon being killed. I think there might be a way to kill them without, you know, their acid splattering all over the area, but I don't know for sure. Either way, they're annoying but not really dangerous. Now to actually finish the enemy section, you got the boss fights. I'd say the bosses aren't anything amazing or even really that challenging, but they aren't boring either. To start with, the first one is called the Big Mimi Brain, and the main challenge is making sure its jumper minions don't kill you while trying to kill it. It does have attacks like, you know, slam attacks, swiping the arena, they're shooting acid pools on the ground. You know, like I said, nothing special, but the design is cool. After that, it's the jumper, which is just the giant boss version of the regular jumper enemies. Nothing much else to say. I mean, by that point, you got grenades, a revolver, and a shotgun, which can melt that guy, to be honest. Next is a boss that really isn't a boss fight, but kinda is, because you fight him again near the end of the game. Anyways, the boss is an attack helicopter. It's simple, you just use the RPG, you just got to take it down. The same thing occurs when you fight it again later, but that time it's on a moving train, which makes for some cool, you know, scenery. Then comes the worst boss fight in the game. I genuinely hated it and found no enjoyment in the fight at all. To describe it, first, it's called the Stink Worm, and the arena is underground and it spirals down. You'll be seeing the footage. But the first thing that happens is, you know, you awaken the boss and a horde of zombies are running up towards you. Not too bad, right? Except the boss attacks by blasting you with like a widespread globs of acid, kind of like a shotgun, man, that, you know, do actually leave acid pools. It also shoots eggs out, and they spawn little worms that try to bite you. However, what really makes the fight such a bitch to get through is that you have to use these barrel spawning machines that luckily appear all around the arena, but you gotta activate it, pick up the barrel, throw it at the boss, and shoot it so that the explosion and fire does the damage. But you gotta do that while the boss is shooting you, and you got freaking worms coming after you, because the zombies aren't infinite, so they do die out. But it's just hard to do that, essentially. But I just couldn't get it to work that well. And the boss got glitched after my 10th death, so it didn't matter anyways. The only other way to do decent damage is with grenades, the RPG, and the black hole gun. I'll talk about that later, which is how I finished killing it. Yeah, I did not have fun with that guy. But the final boss I actually thought was pretty cool. It's an elite assassin that flies around with a jetpack so that he can get close or behind you to kill you with his katana. It was really easy, but after that he became a regular enemy with his health obviously toned down. Still, he's a nice addition even if he's late into the game. That's pretty much all the enemies you gotta deal with. Oh, actually there is one more, which is a special case as it only appears in the beginning of the last level, and it's a tank. Well, multiple tanks. Actually, there are also turrets that appear about halfway and are kind of annoying, but they can be destroyed pretty easily. One last thing actually I want to mention is that there's a cool small event near the end of the game where you are in a giant underground facility, big surprise, and there's a defense section where a horde of jumpers will spawn. And all you gotta do is survive, which would be kind of impossible, I'm not gonna lie. But luckily, there are turrets set up that will only attack the jumpers. They can damage you if you're in the way, but other than that, you're good. And it's a nice change of pace, especially because the only other allies in the game are the civilians who are rebelling against the government and the president. But then, those guys are your homies, but they only appear on the surface and in the cities. So, yeah. The real last part of the gameplay that matters is your arsenal, which I'll just quickly describe. You got 2 pistols, one regular old one, and then the revolver, which is amazing and one-shots any low tier or unarmored enemy. Next are the shotguns, a regular shotgun with a secondary shot that shoots 2 in 1, and a sawed-off shotgun with the same basically, secondary shot, but the sawed-off is way more powerful. It's basically a super shotgun. Then you got the assault rifles, like the AK looking one, and the other one I forgot its name, but I like it quite a lot. And then the grenade and Molotov, both of which are extremely useful if you use them right. Lastly, the BFG, which is essentially what it is, although once the energy shot hits something, it turns into a mini black hole for a few seconds before it blows up. It's pretty badass, and you get it halfway, as you do with pretty much all the guns, so you get to use it quite a bit. I'd say that's a big bonus in this game, is that they don't space out the weapons. You get them pretty quickly, not too quickly, but you get them pretty quickly. Now we'll get into the story, which is actually pretty clear cut. I already gave a quick rundown at the start of this video, but there is more to it, of course. To start, you play as a guy named Vladik, who is a prisoner and has been chosen to be part of an experiment where he has to activate a machine, which he does, and then everything goes wrong. If it sounds familiar, that's because yes, it is based on Half-Life. I mean, there are literally 2 scientists who even have a conversation about it. After it goes wrong, Vladik somehow wakes up completely fine and begins to escape the facility while fighting mutants and not Combine. Once he finally does make it outside, he gets a car and finds out that the government has put the blame on him and has made him a wanted man. After reaching a dead end and fighting through some more not Combine, he meets up with his cellmate, Gravusha. I don't know how to say his name, sorry. I forgot to mention this, but he actually proposed a plan to Vladik at the beginning of the game, just before he got taken to the experiment. Anyways, Vladik meets him and he gives him a sawed-off shotgun, so you know he's a real one. But he also tells Vladik that he needs to meet with him in a safe spot, so he tells him to meet up at his apartment. Thus, Vladik continues his journey while slaughtering hundreds of government soldiers. Once he does make it, he asks how Vladik even made it out alive. Vladik responds by telling Gravusha pretty much everything, which he finds hard to believe, but he's like, you know what, fine, whatever. So he then explains the plan, which is for Vladik to meet up with Gravusha's grandpa. As it turns out, the old man can take the chip out, but this only matters for Vladik because as of this point in time, he's pretty much unkillable due to the experiment having gone wrong. And obviously I forgot to mention this, but every prisoner has a chip in the back of the head, so I don't know if they can just activate it at any time, but at the very least you can't enter certain places if you have the chip. So yeah, now obviously that's important because if they can take the chip out, then Vladik can turn the tide of the war. So Vladik sets out to find Grandpa because he really doesn't have a choice. He is a wanted man in all of Russia, so he'll never have a peaceful life, especially if the rebellion fails. So once again, he goes through hordes of mutants and mostly not Combine in this section as multiple checkpoints block the road. It's a lot of bloodshed, guys. So finally he arrives and gets the procedure done, only to wake up and find out that because of his regeneration, good old Gramps could not take the chip out. He was, however, able to turn it off for the next 6 hours. In that time span, Vladik has to make it back to the city and join the rebels in one final push towards freedom. So for the final time, Vladik mows through hundreds, nay, thousands of enemies as though he were a god of war, of slaughter, and he finally makes it back to the city in the midst of a full-on war between the rebels and the government. Like, I mean, this is their final push. It's crazy. Like, you'll see. Shooting through it, he meets up with Gravusha, who has been shot in the leg, so he can't participate anymore. However, he takes the time to explain the plan to Vladik, which is to essentially make one final but truly important full-force assault on the president's tower. While they do so, Vladik will slip in and find the president and kill him. However, only Vladik can do this because his chip is off. If anyone else were to try, you already know the chips would explode and kill them. Not to mention, Vladik is a super soldier now because of, the experiment, so he's pretty much the rebellion's best bet. Also, by this point, he's gained a reputation, which is seen once he leaves the underground safe house, as a few rebels are waiting for him in the APC. With no hesitation, Vladik gets on, and they drive towards the wall and ram straight through, though Vladik gets knocked out from the explosion. After he wakes up because the soldiers trying to get him back to the fight, he starts to work his magic and fights his way through tanks and a mass amount of soldiers, until he makes it to a room where he finds out that the president has been paying attention to him all this time. He made the room as a trap for Vladik, since he seemingly can't be killed, so instead he knocks him out with gas. Once Vlad wakes up, he sees that he's strapped to a chair in a room with 3 not combined soldiers, and in front of him is a table with all his weapons. One of the soldiers asks, "What kind of asshole did you hide it all in?" Which got a laugh out of me, not gonna lie. I mean, and I literally just laugh right now. Then Vlad wakes up while being transported to a different room. Once he's in that room, a man named Professor Popov cuts Vladik's hand to see the regeneration firsthand. But before he could do more testing, the president interrupts, saying that he wants to meet Vlad face to face. Another blackout, and now he's face to face with the president, who is actually impressed with Vlad's skills and kill count. He then explains that everything that has happened has actually helped the president, and that the mutants nor the rebels are really a threat to him. The mutants are weak to ultraviolet, which means they can't come out during the day, which explains why you only ever fight them on the ground, and he's just letting the rebels have a chance so that he can thoroughly crush them later, which will quell any thoughts of rebellion in the populace, like ever again, or at least for a really long time. The president then gives Vladik an offer to work for him, and Vladik seemingly starts negotiating. This convinces the president that Vladik is interested, so he tells the soldiers to unstrap Vlad, as he is no longer afraid of him. The scene cuts to Vladik with a pen and paper in hand, and the president waiting for him to sign. But of course, this game is called Vladik Brutal for a reason.
Все такой же великой.
Ну чё, пидорасы, на кого теперь работать будем?
Yeah, peak fucking ending, guys. Absolute peak. I do wish there was an explanation on the aftermath, but either way, it's a sensible way to end the story, with Vladik taking control as the new president of Russia, or something like that. I was surprised, but man, it is so cool. To finally end off the video, the game is about 6 to 7 hours long. I myself beat it in 7.4 hours, while my bro beat it in like 7.2 or 3, so it's not a long game, which is good because otherwise I would have definitely overstayed its welcome. And it's only $12, so I'd say it's worth the money. It's a good experience that is worthy as a homage to Half-Life 2, and a little bit of 1. Also, a little funny thing I found is that on the store's page, one of the pictures show an 8-armed giant mutant, and you do see it in game, but only as a corpse on the floor sometimes. Kinda sucks though, because it looks really cool. I guess they couldn't find a way to make it work in the game. Well, I hope you all enjoyed this video. I worked real hard on this one too, and will continue to work hard to not only bring more videos out to you, but bring them sooner. And I have another game that I'll be making a review on that will be short, but it's a game that I think is worth making a review on. It's very, very fun. I'll always make reviews on games I deem worthy, so don't think I'm half-assing anything, alright? Anyways, that's all. I hope you guys have a great day, and that if you like the video, you like the video, and then you comment, and then you subscribe, because it all makes my day. All of that, especially the comments. Seeing the comments is great, man. So, yeah. That's it. Have a nice day. I kind of already said it, but have a nice day, and I'll see you guys next video. In that time span, Vlad has to make it back to the city and join the rebels in the one final push. Wow.